create a email invoicing workflow and statements workflow that is compatible with SedonaSync to allow you guys to send out email invoicing and to have a real level of custom flexibility between the different events. To first start, I'd like to talk a little bit about SedonaSync and how it plays with our events and what we are actually doing with SedonaSync. So if you guys don't already know, SedonaSync is an add-on module to SedonaOffice, which allows information to be extracted from the SedonaOffice database and other databases such as the Manitou and QuoteWorks WeSuite databases. This information is then compiled and sent out in several different delivery methods, including email alerts, reports, and also has a module to allow for actions and workflows to allow the SedonaSync application to write information back to SedonaOffice or to update information and to dynamically process the events. The two main components, however, are the SedonaSync queries and SedonaSync events. The queries section is really responsible for extracting the information out of SedonaOffice based on criteria that gets predetermined during the setup of the event. From the event, we can then email reports, alerts, and other types of notifications out of the system. And as also discussed, we can then add, remove information from different areas within the SedonaOffice application and the email queue and distribution system, which OPT has created for SedonaSync as well. SedonaSync is comprised of three major license components. There's the SedonaSync Alerts license, which is the base license that you receive when you purchase SedonaSync. This allows you to connect to the database, grab the information, and email it out to your clients. There is, however, an add-on license for the Reports license, which allows you the ability to generate content-rich reports, things like Excel documents and PDF invoices, statements, and other types of information. This license would be required if you decided you wanted to send invoices out via PDF, or if you wanted to create and distribute Excel reports. And finally, there's the SedonaSync Actions license, which allows for the workflow capability, the updating and adding in information to the SedonaOffice database, and the extended functionality of SedonaSync. In addition to the SedonaSync, OPT has created something called the OPT Sync interface. What this is an application that sits along with the SedonaSync. It's sort of a helper application that allows easy customization and configuration of your OPT Sync events. This is the foundation of all of our events, reports, and workflow. We have an easy-to-use editor that allows you to customize the events and stores these customizations in a database that's accessible to SedonaSync when the events are executed. We also allow you the ability to view and track the progress of your invoice events and other events through the OPT Sync interface. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about email invoicing and the options that we have within SedonaSync. To first start, SedonaOffice has created two events that is available to you guys with the purchase of SedonaSync. The first event is the invoice notification event. This is a simple event that allows you to notify your customer that there is an invoice available that would direct them to their Sedona web. And all the customizations that would be done would be actually done through the SedonaSync application. So this would require a little bit of coding to get the customizations done for your invoice information, as well as the information for your company's logo, branding, and contact information. The second event that's available as well is the SedonaOffice Basic Cycle Invoice event. This is a body email invoice event that allows the sending of the invoice data to the clients. However, this event is for cycle invoices currently. It does not support service, job, and miscellaneous invoices. For those, you will require the OPT Sync events. This also does not use the email queuing system, so this actually requires that the invoice is then emailed using the print queue. However, if the invoice remains in the print queue, it can be reduplicated and sent out via printing or Bridgestone. So the process of removing the invoice from those queues must be done manually after the invoice event is run through SedonaSync. This is a little bit of extra work that needs to be done in order to manage that to prevent duplications. In addition, there also is some manual coding that will have to be done here as well to load the event in and customize it. So these are the actual events that SedonaSync is producing. The first one to the left there is the invoice notification. You'll see that it's a basic message showing that the customer is getting an automated response. And then we have a couple sections here that are highlighted yellow. These are the sections that you would need to go into the code and manually input your information in to be branded for your company's information. However, we do pull some information from the data, such as the invoice number, the payment details, things like that. That information is pulled in automatically from the SedonaOffice database. And then the event to the right here shows the basic SedonaSync cycle invoice that SedonaOffice has created. This is a simple HTML-based event here that shows the monitoring services as well as the rates, the payments applied, and the invoice balance. However, again, the other information will have to be hard-coded in there, such as the ACH payment dates and the customer branding information. These are examples of the OPT Sync invoicing events. So to the left here we have our master format, which is a summarized version of the invoice. And then this event can also include the details section to go out as well, which is on the left, which is also the same event as the standard invoice event that goes out for cycle, jobs, services, and other types of invoices as well. In addition to the standard format, we also have a few other format options available. This is what we call our modular format, which is built in blocks that can be turned on and off. So if your company needs an important messages section or information about payment details, we can turn on and off these individual blocks to show this information out. In addition, we can create custom blocks to add into these invoices as well. In addition to the body email invoicing events, we also have the PDF versions as well. This here, an example on the left, is the email that would go out to the client indicating that there is an invoice available and to please see the attached document. And then to the right, we show this is the actual PDF that is generated from SedonaSync and attached with the event to send out. Now these events are both customizable through our interface to switch out information such as the branding, the colors, the background shading, and several other options that are available through the interface. In addition to the standard format, we also have a Bridgestone similar format, as well as a European style format that we've created for one customer overseas. This information takes into consideration different currency formats and different taxing authorities and rate changes and things like that. So let's talk a little bit about the actual workflow process and what sets OPT Sync events apart from the average SedonaSync event. To first start, an OPT email invoice event must have a couple criteria met to be able to be processed. First, the customer must have the print cycle invoices turned on. The reason for this is that we actually go out and read the invoices that are sitting in the print queue, email them out, and then manually remove them, automatically remove them from the invoice queue. The bill to must also contain a single valid email address. We error check this email address before the process starts to prevent sending out invoices to email addresses that are not valid. In addition, we also have to have the email invoice flag checked on the bill to indicate that this customer is configured for email invoicing. Some additional criteria that can be set custom for your company is the invoice type. We can filter, include, or sort invoices by cycle, job, miscellaneous, or service. We also can restrict the invoices that are going out based on the invoice date and the issue date. We also have the ability to select and exclude specific branch codes. In addition, we can also run the event specifically for each branch to allow dynamic branding, logo switching, and other types of changes to the event itself based on the branch code. We also have the ability to exclude or select master invoices and process them differently. And one of our newer features is the ability to hold the invoice out to the invoice date. So what this will allow you to do is, let's say you need to send your cycle invoices on the invoice date, but you generate them, let's say, 15 days early. The system will move them to our email queue and hold there until the day of the invoice and then transmit them out. It will prevent the invoice from being printed and sent manually, and will sit in a holding queue until the date arrives. So here is the flag within SedonaOffice for the print cycle invoices. This exists on the customer record. This flag will need to be turned on in order for the invoices to hit the print queue and ultimately be emailed out. This is the email invoice flag and the email address within the bill to record that will need to be turned on in order for the email invoices to be transmitted as well. And in addition, we also have the ability to reprocess invoices for emailing. By going into the invoice and checking add back to print queue will cause the event to be reprocessed, enter into our email queue a second time, and be re-emailed out to the client. So let's look at the workflow in its different processes. So first we retrieve the information from the SedonaOffice print queue. We're going to do this based on the rules processing that we've set forth. So what type of branches, what type of invoices that we want to email out. Once the invoices have been received, we then remove them from the invoice print queue in SedonaOffice, enter in a log indicating that we have done so, and we insert them into the OPT email queue. At that time, the invoices will be ready to be processed. We then run our email invoicing events to collect the invoices out of the email queue based on the different criteria. So in this particular case, if we did not process the invoice till the invoice date, they would sit in the queue and be retrieved at the time it's ready to be transmitted. Once the invoice has been emailed successfully, we then remove it from the email queue and move on to the next invoice. So again, we're going to be collecting the information from the email queue. We then combine that with the information from the SedonaOffice database. The invoice information, customer, company, branch data is all collected for processing. And we combine that with the information from the OPT-Sync interface database. This information, such as the branding, the logos, the messages, templates, and other attachments that are added to the event. And then if equipped, we then create and generate the Crystal Report add-on so that the PDF is created and attached to the email invoice. We then email out to the customer, and if the workflow is configured for additional steps, we then repeat the process to send out the summary, the details, or to a second recipient. At this time, the email invoicing is supported with the bill to email address. However, we're in the process of transcoding that to allow for the contact email, to allow email distribution to multiple contacts. If it is successfully complete, it moves on to the next invoice. So let's take a look at a little bit about the OPT-Sync interface and how it specifically helps you out. In this particular case, we're going to look at, this is the email tab in SedonaSync in order to configure a new outbound notice. As we can see, it does require some knowledge of HTML code and basic structure language. This information is typed in manually and then is compiled at runtime when the email sends out, and then you get the standard look and feel that you would expect on an email. However, we thought that there would be a better way that we can handle this, and we've created an easy-to-use editor within the SedonaSync interface to allow us to have the ability to create the text and the layout without having to know the HTML code on the back end. This is a similar editor that you would expect to see in your standard email client or Microsoft Word. This drastically cuts down on the amount of code that needs to be done and makes it much easier to customize and make changes in the future. In addition to the body message, we can also configure and assign templates to each email invoice or statement. This is also available for all of our events. We would create what we call a profile, which would have things like the message footer, the logo, and any additional information that need to be attached to that event. We would then link that into the event on our event screen, and that would become part of the workflow. You can then change the information on the profile section, and it would apply out to all of the different events that it's attached to that profile. We also have the ability to add in custom message blocks to every event that we send out as well. So for instance, we can have up to 4 messages here. We can run our message editor and have the ability to then create the different blocks that go into the message without having to write the HTML code out manually. These blocks can then be repeated and used for different messages along the way. In addition to the standard message blocks used for the event, we have a few dynamic message blocks that we've configured. One of the blocks we've set up is whether or not the customer has AutoPay configured and report information based on the customer's status. So in this particular case, if the customer has AutoPay active, we'll display a message that says, "Thank you for using your AutoPay feature and keeping the planet green." However, if they do not have AutoPay, we can show them a message to say, "Please sign up and log on to set up your account or credit card for bank draft automatically." This allows us to market these features to the clients that specifically need them. In addition to the standard AutoPay, we also have the same features available for the AutoPay of non-cycle invoices as well. So this is a typical email invoice from OPT. We have this section broken down into multiple pieces or multiple blocks. So for instance, here we show that the top section, there's a profile header and a message one that's not being used on this particular event. There is an address format salutation that can be customized within the invoice, within the OPT sync interface. This allows us to determine how we want to greet the customer and what information should be shown on the event without having to drop the variables in manually. Then the first part is our body header, which contains all the basic information that gets transmitted along with the actual invoice itself, such as the invoice number, the customer number, and the AutoPay method configured. If the customer is not set up for AutoPay, this line would be omitted, and the message at the bottom would show that they can sign up for AutoPay. In addition to the main block, we also have an invoice logo block that allows us to change out the branding and logos on the invoice itself. These blocks are branch aware and can be customized at the branch level. Information such as the remit to is actually hard-coded from the SedonaOffice database and therefore does not require any manual editing. At the bottom we have our cycle AutoPay messages and non-cycle AutoPay messages, as well as our body footer. We have 2 additional message blocks that are available. In this particular case, the customer did not use them. And then we have our profile footer, which would repeat on every event that comes out of the system with that particular profile attached. This is the typical setup for a standard invoice. On the modular invoice, it's built just a little bit differently. We have the profile header still on the top, the salutation and body header. But then the message blocks become the different core components of the actual invoice itself. So in this particular case, we have our online bill pay section, our payment detail section, and our contact us section. Those represent the first 3 messages. Our invoice logo is at the bottom, our body footer, and our AutoPay messages. In addition to the actual invoice itself, we also have the template colors are selectable, fonts and other attributes are selectable within the profile itself. This will allow for standard branding look and feel across all of your events. As with the other formats, the PDF has the similar type of setup where we can customize the different blocks that are attached, but notice that we do not have the actual invoice data represented on the screen. The body header is shown, and then we skip to the body footer. The PDF is actually attached with that event and has its own customization information stored. So we can, again, store the invoice logo, and it can have its own set of message blocks as well. This would be straight verbiage that could be added into the invoice, such as Test Your Systems Weekly or any kind of special promotions. Now, the great thing about our message blocks is that with all of our message blocks, we have start and end times. We can nest and stagger these event blocks to work as a sort of sales campaign to automatically change the messages out each month. And in addition, we can also customize other features such as the background shading and the colors and fonts with the interface as well. This is an example of the Bridgestone invoice as well, where we have the message invoice logo at the top, and we have our 3 messages off to the right-hand side. And the same holds true with our European format. In addition to the customization of the PDF, we also have the ability to attach other types of documents and attachments to the events going out. This will allow you an opportunity to add in stuffers or other type of marketing material that needs to be transmitted with the invoice. One of the great features about our events is that we have the ability with the Actions module to record information back to SedonaOffice. What we do is when the email has been transmitted, we create a note within SedonaOffice to indicate that the email has gone out. Likewise, we also create different steps within the Sedona event log to indicate the different components that are running behind the scenes and the different actions that have been taken along the way. This gives you a full audit trail of what the OPT sync interface and the SedonaSync events have done with your customers' data. And this is an example of the OPT sync interface log here, where we're showing the different events that have run on the system. We can see the invoices being sent out, as well as the ability to have filters to look up specific customers or by specific events and actions. We can then look at this information and indicate where along the process we are. But in addition to having the actual event logs, we have 2 events that were created to help the process along the way. First, we have our 1134 report, which indicates all of emails that have gone out for invoicing, and any invoices that are not going out due to a specific type of failure. So in this case, the first 2 show here that they were not emailed because the email invoice may have not been set up. In this particular case, we can see that the emails are valid, however, the customer was not configured for email invoicing. And below that, we can see the invoices that were transmitted today. This type of report would typically run at the end of the day and would be available for you the next morning to process and look at anything that needs to be addressed. But in addition to that, we also give you a report, the 1135 invoices and print queue, which will go out and read your print queue to look at any invoices that were not either printed, emailed, or delivered to Bridgestone at the end of the day, and the reason for why that was not taken. So let's look at a typical use case. This particular customer has a need to cycle invoices emailed on the invoice date only. The service and job invoices go out immediately, and they chose to not invoice or email rather the miscellaneous invoices. So of course the first step we're going to do is we're going to collect the emails, invoices, and put them into the email queue. We do all this based on the criteria set above. However, we chose not to select the miscellaneous invoices. Those will be left into the print queue and will be required to be mailed out or printed manually. Once in the email queue, then we can run the first event, which will email out the service and job invoices and ignore the cycle invoices. We send this information out to the customer. Once this event is complete, we can run the second event, where we will look for only the cycle invoices that are ready to go. So these invoices must have an invoice date equal to today. The other invoices will be ignored and left into the email queue until the day comes that the invoice date is the same. Let's look at a little bit more of a complex scenario. So in this particular case, the customer requested that the cycle master invoices need to include a special message. Cycle invoices are to be branded by the branch, and branch C does not use email invoices and should be excluded. So in this particular case, we move all the invoices to the email queue other than branch C. We're going to run our first event, which is going to email out the service, job, and miscellaneous invoices and ignore the cycle invoices. The second job is going to look for the master cycle invoices, and it's going to use a dedicated SedonaSync profile and a custom message associated with that event. That information will be transmitted out to the customer on those particular invoices alone. And then we'll run the final batch, which will look for the regular cycle invoices, use a single standard profile, however, will take advantage of the dynamic logo attachment based on the branch. So that's typically how we handle email invoicing. There is some other events available that can help with the process as well. We have our 1102 event, which will show ACH payments posted. We'll email out to the customers all the payments that have posted successfully. We have our 1110 report, which gives the customer a notice if their credit card is about to expire. And we have our 1125 email to the customer, which indicates any ACH payment failures, along with the error message. So let's talk a little bit about statements now. Like invoices, they still have some manual criteria that need to be processed. We will need to make sure that the no collections flag is unchecked on the customer. If this box was checked, this would indicate that the customer is not to receive collection notices. The bill to must contain a single valid email address. However, we have several optional criteria as well. We can choose whether or not to send a collection letter, a statement, or both. So if we wanted to send out a letter to the customer indicating certain verbiage based on how delinquent they are, we can do so, and we can include a statement with that as well. Within that statement, we have the option of showing the credits or showing just the invoices. And the triggering of the event can be done based on the threshold of how much is past due, or how many days past due it is, or a combination of both. And in addition, we look for the number of days since the last statement. We can run these events every day if you choose, and through our workflow process, we update the statement date at every time the statement is sent out. Therefore, if we set this for, let's say, 30 days, we can then prevent the customer from receiving duplicate statements until the next 30-day mark, and then they'll receive a new statement. We are also adding in the customer type to have select or exclude option as well. So here's the example where the no collections flag is on the customer record. The bill to email address must be valid. In addition, we have the print statements flag. This is an optional flag and can be turned on or off depending on your customer preferences. If this box is turned on, then this client will be available to print out statements in addition to the email statements that go out as well. If you decide that the customer is only to receive email statements and collection letters, then you would uncheck this box and the customer would not be qualified for printing the statements out through the standard SedonaOffice print statements workflow. So let's look at the process. The first step is that we need to re-age the customers. We execute a command against the database to update the customer's aging information so we are showing the most up-to-date info. The second step is we send out our 1130 preview report. This report will contain all the customers that are qualifying for a collection email. It'll detail also the customers that have issues preventing them from having their email sent out, and will show you the different levels or the different verbiage that each customer will receive based on how delinquent they are. The next step is that we will send out the email statement or collection letter, and then finally we'll update the last statement date and add any additional collection event notices or event log entries within SedonaOffice. As with before, our workflow starts with the customer aging. We'll retrieve that information. We'll move it to the email queue. And then our 1109 report will look at the email queue, email out any statements that need to be sent, and remove and update SedonaOffice based on the email being sent out, and make the additional event log entries that are necessary, as well as updating the last statement date. So here's a preview of our 1130 collection letter email. This here is showing the customer information, what type of customer they are, our bill to and email address, the total past due, the oldest invoice, number of days, our collection status, our collection queue, the last collection activity, as well as the reason for being sent or blocked. In this case, all statements that would be held back and not sent due to an issue are highlighted here in red. We can see that in this particular case, most of them are due to missing emails. And the two black entries show that bucket 2, 31 to 60 day letter is the one that's going to be sent out. Here's an example of our standard collection letter. This is the one without the statement. We have the same standard type of setup. We have a profile header, we have our message at the top, address, format, salutation, and then we have our body header. This contains what we call a dynamic collection letter. So the verbiage that displays in part of this section is based off of how delinquent the customer is. So we look at your SedonaOffice aging buckets, and within the interface we give you the opportunity to define the message that's going to go out to the customer based on how delinquent they are. Then we show some basic information, their past due and the total amount. The body footer, it's a static message that we attach to the event as well. And we have our profile footer, our additional messages, and our AutoPay information will be listed below. This is our classic statement version. Similar type of setup at the top. We have our body header with the dynamic collection letter. So the same information that's displayed on the previous event can be displayed here, dynamically based on how delinquent the customer is. But in addition, we can show a statement below that indicates the invoices that are past due, total amount, how past due they are, and the types of invoices. We also then show a total aging for that customer at the bottom. Now this information can be customized based on the event. We also have the profile section for the template control, which will allow us to change the colors and fonts available for the event. We have our body footer then at the bottom, which is the static message at the bottom of the email. And then our additional information, the logo and profile would be below that as well. So we have our body footer, our cycle AutoPay messages, and our profile footer. And here's our latest format, the standard statement format. Again, the same type of setup at the top, but then we also have our statement at the bottom, which shows our statement logo, which is the same type of setup as the invoice. We can customize this based on the branch if necessary. And then we show a statement that looks very similar to the SedonaOffice statement that comes out of the main application. The one major difference, however, between this and the other one is that we do show the aging buckets based on the customer configured aging buckets within SedonaOffice. SedonaOffice does allow a separate customization on their statement that we don't currently have at the moment. So that is the statements in a nutshell. Now, our pricing is based on the different types of events. So we have our standard 1118 event. That's the email invoice suite that we discussed. That's going to cover your email invoices. It's going to cover the print queue setup, removing them from the print queue. It's going to cover the email queue and all the different components necessary to make those actions work. And that's for $9.95. That also does include the OPT sync interface as well. Then we have our 1109, which shows our collections suite. We have that available as well. That's going to cover our 1130, our statements preview event, our 1109, our statements event, our 5111 and 5112, the re-aging and the last statement date updates, our SedonaOffice notes, and the email queue workflow. Now, if you'd like to get both today, we have a special package for $14.95. It's a great bundled price. It's going to cover both of those. And we're actually currently working on a flash report that indicates your overall performance in invoicing and collections over the last month. This is going to be available to anybody purchasing both packages within the next coming months. In addition, if you choose to go with the PDF version, we include the same billing package. In addition, we include the invoice PDF that you choose and the statement PDF. But built into that price is also the time for us to customize that format based on your specific needs. So if we need to lay out the invoice a little bit differently or change a few options on there, we have the ability to do so. In addition to the PDF forms that we provide, you are also required for SedonaSync to have a Crystal Reports license in order to connect those PDFs to your database and to make the customization changes on your system. We do include that fee in the price as well. So that's what I have today for you guys. Be sure to ask us any questions that you have. You can always reach out to us, and you can visit our website, optbusinessservices.com. We have quite a bit of samples and literature up there for you. We also have quite a bit of documentation outlining the other events that we have. Our news feed is up there and it'll let you know the upcoming events that we have. And we encourage you guys to visit there or give us a call and let us know what you guys need. And that's what I got. I'll turn it back over to you, Michael.
Okay, thanks, Brad. That was awesome. And I've got a few questions, so I'm just going to start going through them real quick. Some of them I don't understand myself, so I'll let you answer them.
Sure.
And I think you answered some of these, so I'm just going to read them anyways. Can invoices be emailed as PDF attachments?
Yes, they can. That's the email invoice with the PDF option. It does require, as I said, the Crystal reports, but we do have those several PDF formats that are available. And with that package, we also include some custom development time to customize that PDF based on your specific needs. Because some of that information is hard-coded versus dynamic.
Okay, and can you send an email to multiple email addresses?
Correct. So that at the moment is not possible. However, we are definitely working on that. That's one of our primary changes that we're working on. We have a new product coming out in the next few months that's going to allow us the ability to transmit emails to multiple recipients using the contacts versus the bill to email address. But for now, we do not have the capability, but we will shortly.
Okay. The next question, for the invoice hold date, how is that set up? Is that indicated per invoice issued, or is there a flag or option to select per customer?
Sure. So that's a global flag. We can set that up by branch. All of our invoicing and statements can be, we can change the processing rules based on each branch. So we duplicate the event and run it separately with its own criteria for each branch. However, as a whole for that branch, those filters, such as the holding the invoice back to the invoice date, applies to the entire run. So in that case, the entire branch.
Okay. So the next question is, if we use a custom invoice and we want our OPT invoice event to look like that in case we have to reprint it manually in SedonaOffice, can you customize that? Do we do it ourselves? How do we do that?
Sure. So we would work with you if you guys are if we're doing a PDF version. Within the fee of that PDF is the time for us to customize and build the invoice for you guys. We can use one of the standard templates we have, or we can build something specifically for your needs. So if we are trying to duplicate your existing format, depending on how close it is to the standard format, we would determine if it's going to be covered under the standard price or if there's just a little bit of extra time to develop that. But we can certainly do that for both the PDF and the email body invoice.
The next question is, if we use the Bridgestone standard and Bridgestone mails our invoices, can we have the OPT event look just like the Bridgestone standard?
Yeah, again, we have that Bridgestone format now, the left and right style. There is a vertical Bridgestone that we're working on developing now. But yes, especially with the PDF, we have the time built in there to adjust it to make it look as close to your format as possible.
The next question says, can you remove an invoice to be printed from the email queue, or only from the customer level?
So I think I understand what you're asking for. In that particular case, if you want to prevent a customer from getting email invoices, you can turn them off at the bill to level on that customer. If it's already being processed, the time between going into the email queue and going out to the email engine is probably about 2 or 3 minutes, unless the invoice is held back. If it is held back, to remove it from the queue is something we haven't built in just yet, but it does sound like a good feature, and we'll look into adding that flexibility.
Okay. How do you handle rejected emails so we know that the email address is no good, as well as any blacklists?
Sure. So that's a great point. I did fail to mention about the blacklist setup. We do have the ability to use a blacklist that is in the interface. What you would do is enter in the email address of anybody requesting a blacklist, and then that would prevent it from going out. We would add in an unsubscribe field at the bottom of the invoice in your profile, and then they would click on that and request an unsubscribe. At the moment, that would be a manual process of loading that. Michael, forgive me, there was another part of that question?
Rejected emails. How do those come back?
Okay, so the way that the rejected email works is it's one of two things. So if it's a malformed email address that is not proper syntax, it will not try to email that out whatsoever, and it will sit in your print queue. If it is a properly formed mail address but it's going to somebody that doesn't exist anymore or is rejected, that rejection notice will go back to the email reply to address set up on the SedonaSync event. Typically, this is a holding mailbox that we create on your system, such as like Invoices at OPT Business Services. And then that would contain all the rejections that were sent out.
We have a few questions, and I'll just answer this one about getting a copy of the presentation. This will be posted on the website afterwards under our website with our past webinars. So you'll be able to watch this whole thing over and over again, as well as get the PowerPoint. Upon installation setup, will you check the email invoice flag for us and our database? So can you run a script to flag everyone for this?
Sure. So what we'll do is, depending on, how complex the rules are for you, if it's a simple thing you just want to turn it back on, yeah, we can certainly run that for you. If you guys want to get into a little bit of granular details, some, we want to do it for this customer set, we don't want to do it for this customer set, and so on and so forth, we can certainly do that for you. Be billed out separately.
Okay. If not successfully sent on email, will it stay in the print queue so that they could then use Bridgestone to send it out?
So at this time, once it enters the print queue and SedonaSync tries to email it out, at that time, it's removed from our print queue. Once it's passed off to SedonaSync, we are out of the game. So at that point, it's up to SedonaSync to hold it in their queue. You would have to then manually print out that invoice or export it to Bridgestone.
This goes hand in hand with that. Can we have some customers that get both an email and a mailed version of the invoice?
That's a great question. We had the option back in the first version, but there were some limitations to that. We had to take it out for the email queuing system. However, we are looking at putting that feature set back. At the moment, it would be either or, but we are looking at a way to put that back in.
Okay. Are there any additional monthly recurring fees from OPT or just the one-time setup fees?
Sure. So we can install the events without any recurring fees. However, we strongly encourage you guys to take a maintenance contract with us because that will cover any updates or changes to the events or any kind of customizations that we need to do ongoing. As we know, the main application gets updated frequently, and as things change, the events may need to be upgraded or modified. So we do offer a maintenance contract which covers those types of things. I would say 90% of our customers take the maintenance at that point.
And I got two more questions. This next one is really for us.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, is there any additional fees associated from SedonaOffice? No, the only fee with SedonaOffice is the SedonaSync application that you do have to have in order for all this to work. But there are no additional fees in order to utilize the services of OPT. We encourage the use of OPT. SedonaSync has been a very, very successful and widely used product of the SedonaOffice customer base. It does, though, take a skill set and knowledge in order to get it working and get it going. And what Brad and his team has done at OPT has really made that simple. They've taken the process. And what you have with Brad and his team these are actually customers of SedonaOffice, and they really made a business out of this. They saw the power of SedonaSync and said, how can we take this to the next level and help the customers out? And so when we saw what they were doing, we embraced it, and we embraced everything that they were doing as well with it. So we hope that you take advantage of that.
Hey, Michael?
Yes.
I do want to add in one other thing, though. With the email workflows and the PDFs, there is the license, the SedonaSync Actions and Reports license that will need to be purchased as well, in addition to the main application.
Thank you.
So for the PDF version, you'll need the reports, and for all of our email invoicing and statement events, you'll need at least the actions. Okay.
And last question is there anything that you have that's on the horizon that you just want to share with us that maybe isn't out yet, but is something that you're looking to do that might be really, really cool?
Oh, okay. Whoever it is that asked that, give us a call and we'll share that with you. We are working on a product that's going to it's going to be a game changer for everybody, I think, involved. As further than that, I don't want to give away too much, but it's going to allow a lot more power with SedonaSync, SedonaOffice, and the other business partners.
Okay. I'll let one last question come. It just came in. Where's the email info coming from? The billing information or the contact information?
At this time, it's the bill to email address. But like I said, we are working on a product that's going to allow us to grab that information from both the bill to and the contact information.
And you are aware that SedonaOffice now does have at the contact level a new field for emailing invoices, both at the whether they want that contact wants a cycle invoice, service invoice, job invoice, or miscellaneous invoice.
Correct, so, which we are in the process of working with.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining our webinar today. Brad, thank you so much for your time and for everything you've done with OPT. Anyone, if you have any questions, you can contact OPT directly, or if you wanted more information on SedonaSync, be sure to contact us and Justin DeBadges at our office. Thank you so much. We appreciate you attending today and look forward to the next webinar coming up soon. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys.